I'm just going to keep Legos trying not to keep memorizing it. That's chapter 2. Congratulations, you've completed chapter 2. That's pretty much all it is to chapter 2 of this book. Is chapter 3, Fun with Sprites. Let's look at our game. Well, I didn't call it game 1, I just called it game.
I think we have both a game and a game 1 now.
I might. Okay. Let's look at our game 1 file. Game 1 CS. Well, actually, let's look at program first. It doesn't do anything. It calls game. Yay. So let's look at the game 1 CS. This is what building a project basically created. 2 class level variables. This is your graphics card. This is the manager for it, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look at Justin too, because he probably knows it better than I do at this point. Sprite batch is your sprites. The names here are also super simple. Like basically what it says it is, it does. Constructor.
Construct stuff.
It constructs it. It makes oh, this is important though, your root directory content, that is basically telling your game where to go look for all your files at. If you want to change it to another folder, I don't know why, but you could. Initialize, you'll add a bunch of code in here. Eventually it initializes all the stuff in your game. Duh. Load content, loads all the content in your game.
I think it's important to point out that a lot of these loops are going to get run multiple times in the game. Initialize is only going to get run once, and it automatically gets called once your game starts.
Right.
So after your constructor is done building the game, then initialize gets called, and then after that, load content gets called. And that's only once.
And then unload content
You'll
is,
probably
is
never
the
use.
cease of your game. If you want to unload file, if you want to be technically right, you can unload all your files from your memory.
If you use a different,
A destructor can do basically the same
it's
thing.
if you use a different content manager than their content pipeline that they provide, you need to unload your content, but you probably won't need
Otherwise,
to do
the content pipeline will
that. Yeah, it does it all for you.
Or autosave or post high score or whatever.
Right.
Here's the meat and potatoes of a X and A game. Update and draw. These are the two methods that basically update runs 60 times, draw runs 60 frames per second. So
If it can.
60 times every second. If it can, yeah. If your computer is decent enough, it'll call draw. What it basically does is draws whatever you told it to draw in this method for that certain splice of time. It draws it to the screen. It takes this little nice parameter game time, which is, guess what, the time in your game, and just periodically updates it. And then it calls update 60 times for every draw, which updates all your game logic. We'll see that in a bit. There we go. See, here's the game loop like Justin was talking. Look and update draw. Takes parameter game time. It calls initialize. Hits load content. Then it starts spinning like that. And then eventually game ends and it unloads the content. That's the game loop. This is what most games are based off of. Oh, you know, I didn't say anything about it. And this is where games really differ from normal applications that you'll build. Normal applications just basically sit there and wait for Windows or whatever operating system to say, hey, something happened, change your state. Like, hey, they clicked on a button, update whatever you're doing. Whereas a game is constantly looping through, changing itself without, you could not touch the game at all and it would change itself. You know, guys would walk around, monsters would eat you, whatever. And it's called polling. It's constantly polling for new inputs, or any other changes in the game. The operating system actually does this at low levels. It polls for inputs as well, but
Win32.
huh?
It's Win32.
Win32, yeah, but you don't really ever see it unless you are programmed. I don't know anything. I guess games are maybe most synonymous with an operating system, more so than any other application. Alright, let's look at loading a sprite. So we want to load a
Vista.
Vista. So we want to load a sprite, but first my to blast. It's tricky. We want to load a sprite. In your class level, you're going to call it texture 2D. We call it texture here. Texture 2D is basically like a picture that's two-dimensional. It's not a model. This is, we'll look at this further, but there's a couple points. These are C# data types called points. It takes two things like a point and a graph, X and Y coordinates. Reload content right here. You use your texture that you called. This is the one of the calls for loading the texture. You tell where it's at. It's at images 3 rings. As you can see here, images 3 rings. 3 rings is right here.
You want to go through adding that file into the content manager?
Yeah. It's just here, add, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Add and then.
Let's say you want to add a new item to here. When I pulled this code off the author's website, he splits all of his stuff into subdivides it into folders, which I think is a good idea. You probably want to keep your stuff a little cleaner rather than just having 5,000 items down here. But in order to, let's say we build this images folder by going to add new folder. We already did that. Let's say you want to add a new item. It's like adding a new class in Visual Studio like you normally would.
Yeah. You probably want an existing.
What's that existing item?
And then you just browse for it.
Look, conveniently it's already in here. We'd click on that, hit add.
Yeah.
We won't do it because it'll duplicate the item, but that's essentially how you add any kind of textures, models, sound. If you're using like XML files for scripting or something like that, you'd add those in a similar fashion.
Another thing that's kind of frustrating when you're first starting, if you don't know, when you do content.load and then you put in what you're loading, inside of the parentheses you put the file name, but you don't put, like let's say it's a PNG file, you don't put .png. If you put that, it won't work. It's the name is just the name of the file.
Which is a good point. You have to actually name, you can't have also a 3 rings audio file, right?
Yes.
Because this, even though you parameterize it, it's not going to look for something that should fit this texture 2T. It's going to just look for whatever file is called through,
Yeah.
3 rings.
Pretty smart, not that smart.
Does it fail if you have multiple extensions, or just
It'll-
something weird?
It'll give you a runtime, or it'll give you a compile time error.
That's basically how you load any kind of image into there. We're already to draw. Okay. Then to draw the image to the screen, insert something that looks like this into your draw method. This is going to be a little more advanced. It's got a overloaded draw method. If you want, I'd check out the draw method on like MSDN. It's got a whole bunch of different overloads that you can do for it. You can draw models, right?
No,
Or you can draw.
that
you
doesn't
draw,
work for models.
It only
This is
works
only
with 2D.
sprite batch. Anything that's done with your sprite batch is all going to be two-dimensional stuff. So before you draw anything with 2D, you have to call spritebatch.begin, and once you're done, you have to call spritebatch.end, which you see did on either side.
Here we're using rectangles. You can also use points.
Yeah.
Or vector 2s.
Yeah.
But you'll see why we're using a rectangle.